everyone, welcome to my craft room. I'm so excited to have you here today. We're going to be looking at embossing powders. Do you struggle with where to store these? I have 3 different ways that I think will work in any craft room. So let me take you through this supply and ways that you can store it better in your craft room. Here we go. The first way that we're going to look at to store embossing powders is in a drawer system. This specific drawer system is from Stamp & Storage. They make these to fit perfectly in the IKEA Calyx unit, which is something that I use in my craft room regularly. And they make these drawers that pull out. You can get different sizes. I went with a size that not only worked for embossing powder, but would also work to hold these paste. So paste are a little bit taller than an embossing powder and it fits perfectly in this drawer. So we're going to look at ways, the easiest ways to put our embossing powders. You can see that they slide in the drawer. So I've tried out a couple of different options, and if we put them on some different sticky paper, which I'll line some drawers with overhead, you will see that this really works nicely. They're not moving, even though I can move these all around. If you've got them over here on our sticky paper, they work great. So I'm going to show you some ways to organize your embossing powders so that you can find exactly what you want when you need it. And we're going to look at using a drawer system like this, plus 2 other ways. So let me show you this overhead, and I'll show you what I mean by sticky paper. Okay, so let's look at the inside of these drawers. I did have to back the camera up. By the way, I have a new glass mat that you're going to be seeing in videos. This is the front of the drawer, and then right here is the inside. So it's a little easier if I put it this way for me to show you what we're going to do on the inside. We're going to line up all of our embossing powders, but we need to prep the space. And so what I'm going to use to prep the space is called, I'm using specifically Contact brand grip prints. And this one comes in 18 inches by 4 feet, and it's made to do like drawer lining. And so I'm going to cut this to the exact size of these drawers, and then we're going to lay it inside, and we'll see how our embossing powder does on this, or if it's going to need some type of divider. Now, if you don't have something like this, you can look for other things in your craft room. One thing that I found in my craft room that worked perfectly was this chipboard holder. It's made into little squares, and it actually fits the embossing powder perfectly. Let me show you. So if you're one of the people who makes your own chipboard items from like a laser, I don't have one of those, but this would be a real easy way to get everything to stay in your drawer. Now, Stamp & Storage also makes things that go in the drawer to help you hold on to everything, but I'm trying to not spend any extra money on that and seeing what I can do with just the contact paper. The other thing we're going to try to figure out is how much we can stick in one drawer. I'm going to count the number of embossing powders that will fit in this one drawer. So contact paper is made to be put down. It's got a more smooth side and it's got a stickier side. I'm going to start with the sticky side down and we'll test it, and then we can decide if we need to move. So tilting a drawer back and forth, this is definitely staying in place and not rolling around. I have to really turn the drawer over. Now let's see what happens if I use the stickier side up. Stickier side's not as pretty. I'm just gonna say it's a little more off-white, but let's see here. Still holds it. Probably about the same tilt. I don't think that it really makes a huge difference as to when it falls over. And that tilt is not really even possible when I'm removing this from the drawer unless I just completely drop the whole drawer, because pulling the drawer out, it comes out straight. It may tip just this amount. Let's see if I can show you from the side. It may, as you pull it out, it may tip just a little bit just to adjust, but that amount is going to hold on to this embossing powder. Hang on. But tilting it some, like I'm doing here, is still holding on to our embossing powder. So I am going to put the contact paper the other direction. I'm going to do it this way. And then let's experiment with how many we can get into this drawer with it still being able to work properly. Okay, let's see how many embossing powders we can fit in here. I've got quite a few still in this tray, so I'm going to be transferring them just to see how many we can fit along the bottom. These are not going to be in the rainbow order, but we're just seeing how many we can fit in here. So we're going to take it and we'll just multiply. We'll see how many go along the bottom side, which just looks like, will that one fit? So yeah, okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 along the bottom. I'm going to write that down so that I can do my multiplication. 8 along the bottom. Let's see how many we can do along the top. The top is a little bit longer, so I'm expecting more than 8. We're already at 5, 7, 9. Can that 10th one fit? Let's just see. That'll make our math very nice and easy. Yes, that 10th one will fit. So this drawer is going to hold 80, okay? 80 of these. I don't even know if I have 80 embossing powders, so really one drawer is all it's going to take, but I want to see if I put all of my embossing powders in here. Let's just see how many I have, because I don't know that I've ever counted. I'm not going to do them in order. I'm just going to slam this drawer full and let's see what happens. I just think it's going to be cool to see what it looks like. So just putting lots and lots of embossing powders in here. It's definitely, let's see if that 10th one always fits. Yes, the 10th one always fits. So this is definitely going to be 80 embossing powders. Let's grab all of these that we just put in this unit and we'll add those. So for our units, we have this one that's holding 33. The other one is holding 60. Our mini ink tray is holding 60. And this one should hold 80. We're going to see how it moves. I want to make sure that things don't tip over when I pick it up, but it's going to take me a second to get all these embossing powders in here. So if you enjoy just watching colors move into here, then hang on with me for a second. If you haven't done it yet, make sure, it might be easier just to dump them. See if I can dump these out. Okay. And that way I can start stacking them up. Okay, so if you haven't done it yet, I'm sorry, I was in the process of dumping embossing powders. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button on my channel. This video is a little different than a lot of my other ones. I do a lot of organization videos and I do a lot of voiceover videos. And of course I do some live streams. So this would actually, I might actually make this a live stream at some point too, just because people love seeing ways you can organize in your craft room. And sometimes it's just more fun to watch it and chat. So just know I've got lots of options out there and I would love to have you as part of my crafty community. Have a fun Facebook group that we share things and I'd love to see you in there. Oh man, I may not have enough embossing powders for this. Let me see if I got the rest. It would be crazy if I couldn't fit those. Now, I'm also looking at Wow embossing powders mainly. I'm going to show you a couple of different varieties. I don't have a whole lot of other embossing powders, and sometimes they are slightly different size. So if I have enough of them to figure out how many will fit in here, I'll let you know. I know they'll still fit. I just don't know if it will be the exact same amount. So that's 2 of my containers. Man, this holds a whole lot. It holds so many. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's another container I had. This one's mainly sparkles, but let's put it in here and see. Uh-oh, messed one up. Oh man, I do have 80, don't I? Wow, that is so amazing as to how much will fit in that drawer. We got a little bit of wiggle room, but not enough to put a whole nother row or anything like that. So let me hold this up. We'll make sure that things aren't falling and see what we think here. Oh yeah, that's nice and snug. Nice and snug. Now, how easy is it to get one out? So say you pull your drawer out and you say, oh, I need this one. I think I want this one. And I think I want this one. Let's see how, if your spots will stay or if you might accidentally knock them over. As long as you're not tilting your thing completely, your spots are there and stable. So this is a great option. So you can go back when you're done, put them back in there, however you had them. It may take a little wiggling, but it does fit perfectly. So this here is a total of 80 embossing powders. Woo! Okay, let me look at some different size embossing powders and I'll show you them on our other products to make sure that they fit. Okay, now we're gonna have to unpack this one a little bit, but you know it's gonna fit. Let's just look at approximate size. So this Ranger one is a little bit bigger in both. It's just diameter is slightly bigger. So my guess, I'm gonna guesstimate how many will fit. I think since this line on us is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think you could fit 7 this way, and I think you're gonna have to take one of the numbers off of this, and this was 10. So I think it's gonna be a 7 by 9 if you do your Ranger. So 7 times 9 is 63. So instead of holding 80 of the Wow, it's gonna hold 63 of the Ranger. Now, when you look at this, this is almost a four of them. So see, with the Brutus Monroe, it's so much larger. I think with this one, you're probably gonna fit the same as your Ranger. Its top may be ever so slightly larger, but its base is pretty much the same. So I think you're about the same with your Altenew powders. Altenew does not have nearly 63 powders, but with Brutus Monroe, I'm gonna see if it possibly could even stack on itself. So I think you're gonna have to remove 4 to fit one Brutus Monroe. So we'll just divide our 80 by 4 and say you can only get about 20, and you can't, these things are too thick to stack on top, so it'd just be laying down like that. So you're probably only gonna get 20 or so of these in here if you're using these bigger embossing powders. Okay, so we know that what I'm showing is for Wow embossing powder. If you're not a Wow embossing powder fan, you still could use this with Ranger, Altenew, or Brutus Monroe. You just got to know it doesn't hold quite as many. Okay, another way that I store my embossing powders also involves a drawer, but this drawer has a couple of different bins in it. So this is one of the IKEA Alex drawers. I've got some bins just from Target that can hold some embossing powders, and then I will show you this tray overhead as well. But I have a tray that holds embossing powders, and it has a little line that's got that keeps them from kind of falling. Now I could just completely dump it out. That would definitely work, and to lose all of my embossing powders, but it does have some movement in it, and you're still keeping everything in a line, which is nice, and it fits well in these drawers. It actually can go this way, or it can turn like this in the drawers. But with the embossing powders, because they do stick up a little bit higher, you aren't able to stack on top of this like you are when you do mini ink pads. So it does give you a little bit of a limit in your drawer on how much you're able to store. So I am thinking of moving from this method to my storage cabinet so that I can store more mini ink pads, which I will show you how I have those stored. So these are trays that are made from Organize More, and they're made to hold mini ink pads. And as you can see, these are flush with the top. So you're able to stack them 2 at a time versus only getting 1 on this one. So you can do twice as many ink pads basically as you can embossing powders using this method. So it's a great option if you don't have a lot of embossing powders, or you've got plenty of drawer space and you can take it up with your embossing powders. If you don't have as much space, it might be useful to consider one of the cabinets or the other option that I'm going to tell you about. So let me get these drawers closed and we'll look at the next option. So this was the second way that I showed you on how to organize your embossing powders. This is an Organize More tray. These trays are made in the US. It's actually, this company's in Tennessee, which is close to my heart. As you know, many of that I'm in Tennessee. So I have all these embossing powders. This holds 60 embossing powders. It has 6 rows and it'll hold 10. There is a little bit of wiggle room up here, but you can't quite fit that last one. So they can slide just a little bit in their lane here, but there's this nice wooden part that keeps them from completely sliding all over the tray. And this may be our determiner based on the contact paper. Which one's going to slide the most? Are they all going to stay, or do they need some kind of ridge like this to hold them? So I'm going to take this out so that you can see that ridge just a little bit better. You see this little piece of wood right here that holds them so that they can't go back and forth. Very nice. So that's perfect. This is made specifically for mini ink pads. And I can put this kind of mini ink pad or those Catherine Pooler ones, and see how it's flush. It's made the perfect height of a mini ink pad so that you can stack these trays. Now with the embossing powders, you definitely cannot stack the trays in my current drawers. You could always put something on top of it, but it's just going to be a little bit unstable since these are made to fit on top of each other and hold that area. So we'll talk about swatching these and ways to actually store them so you know which types of powders are where. But right now I just wanted you to see what this looks like, and I'm going to take all of these out and kind of show you what the whole tray looks like. Of course, I'm going to link these things in my description so that you can see those, but I wanted to let you see a little bit more of the tray. And I'm going to leave out some of these so that we can look at them in the next version. Now, of course, I get sparkles and a little bit of stuff right in here, but you can just use some type of I don't know what it's called, like a microfiber cloth. This one's actually a dusting cloth, and you can pick up that extra if that really bothers you. But you know, embossing powder is always going to leave a little bit of a mess, especially if it's got these glittery things, because when you close the top, sometimes you have a little bit stuck in the top, and so it will get in your tray. But don't worry about that, no big deal. So here's those dividers in the tray, like this. They are nice, just little pieces of wood, and this tray is wooden, okay? So it's definitely a wooden, solid tray. Let me see if I can lift it up so you can kind of see a little bit better. And like I said, made to fit this way in the Alex drawer, or you can fit them this direction in an Alex drawer. So if you've got IKEA units, especially Alex drawers, and I've got the wide Alex drawers, so the smaller Alex drawers, I think it will fit in, but double check that with the manufacturer to be safe. Okay, looking at some different size embossing powders, I grabbed one from Ranger, grabbed one from Altenew, and then I grabbed one from Brutus Monroe. Brutus Monroe definitely does not fit in between these grids. It could fit rolling like this, like if you did it sideways, that would work, but it doesn't fit. It's too big to fit in these. So Altenew, its base doesn't fit down in here either. So it's not going to fit great in this. It would be rolling along the edges, which I don't think would be worth it. Now, if you're a Ranger embossing person, that fits. It doesn't slide a whole lot, but it does fit. Let's see if we can fit. Yeah, definitely fits in there. It would still not be able to be stacked, and it can't lay any other way. It has to fit with its bottom snug in that area. Okay, so it does do that if you're interested in using it for that. Now let's check our other methods and see how they fit. Okay, so this is another way that you can store your embossing powders, especially if you have an IKEA Calyx unit. They make these also where they can just stand alone, but these are little, these are things from Stamp & Storage that have a little container. They come in different sizes, so if you look at this unit, you can see I've got a little bit larger and smaller. So in the IKEA, you can fit 2 of the small ones, and you really could almost stack one more there. And I definitely could do another one in the center, and then 2 of the slightly larger. If we went with these 3, we'd have a little bit more wiggle space. But this one is the one that I use often to store my ink refills, and I want to show you how well embossing powders fit in here. So you can stick your embossing powders down in this and they fit perfectly. So I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like. They definitely will still stack because you can see that they are not nearly as tall as my ink refills, and so they can stack, and you could do, I'll tell you numbers on how many you could store in this unit, but it would be a whole lot. So if you've got a lot of embossing powders and you don't have a whole lot of drawer space, this may be an idea for you. So this container is called a grid caddy, and like I said, it does stack on top of each other. I currently use it to store all of my ink refills, and I put a little dot on the top that shows me where those refills are. But when I started checking this out with embossing powders, I realized this fits perfectly. And so I wanted to line this up and see what we could fit in here and how we thought it looked versus our other options. Because part of craft room organizing is just getting the aesthetic that you want. I love that you can paint these ends, or you could label the ends so you know what is in each section. I haven't gotten to that yet, mainly because I'm constantly experimenting with what and how I want to store items. Just like today, I've been storing these mini ink refills, and I don't know if I'm going to change that, but we're going to experiment and see what we think. So let's go ahead. I'm going to try to remove these in order so that I can get them back. So you'll just see me kind of moving them out and putting them in a line over to the side. Actually, I'm going to move them off this because I do get a little reflection on this table. Okay, let's see what happens if we fill this whole container up with embossing powders. And I can show you it a little bit emptier so you can kind of see. Looks like this from the side. It is made by actual, it feels almost like chipboard. It's a type of wood. And like I said, it will stack on top of each other. So let's see what we think. It holds 33 versus our mini ink tray holding 60. But this also fits in a more, it depends on what kind of storage you have. If you don't have drawer storage, this is going to be an awesome way. Okay, I'm just going to drop these in and we'll see what we think. They do fit perfectly. Sorry if that's making too much noise for you, but I am doing this, and you'll see sometimes I go and I label the top. I'm actually thinking I'm going to remove all these labels. The color is really what I need. I don't need what the color is called. I can find that on the side of the bottle, and actually these a lot of times just end up peeling off. So I think I'm going to change that up. So if you're looking at why does she have some of them labeled and why does she not have these others labeled, so just know there's a plan coming. And these may not be all perfectly in order like I had them previously, but it's close enough that I'm just generally going in a rainbow order. Oops, let's do one more blue there. Okay, it's gonna be crazy if I have exactly the right amount in it. Of course, that wouldn't be the case. Okay, so here is the exact right amount. I'm going to grab the other container. So that's 33 embossing powders that fit in. You could just stack them on your desk. Let me show you the other unit and how it stacks. I'm going to leave the refill inks in the other unit so that you can see the stacking. Okay, this one has refill inks in it, but you can see that it stacks. Actually, I'm going to do something else. Hang on. Okay, and here you can see that we've got two of these side by side. I'm going to make sure that I can see these. I'm going to show it in a couple of different camera angles so you see my other camera right here. Now these will stack on top of each other. So it's got a little notch, which you'll be able to see in my other camera angle, that fits on right here. And then you have a double decker. I'm going to try to turn this slightly so you can see what I mean, because I don't want to dump out my inks, but at the same time I want to show you that, look, we can get tons of things. You really could even stack Look at that. You could stack 2 because you have that gap. And it's so taut, you possibly could, I mean, of course they're going to fall out if you turn them sideways, but you could stack 2 of these on top of each other and still fit. You might have to stick your embossing powders together, but it can be done. Look, see how that goes? You could do 2. I just think if you turn it too much, this one's gonna fall out because it doesn't have a divider. So just know that it can be done. And you can get 3 of this. So 3 of these containers can be done on in an IKEA calyx unit. So let me kind of show you. So I took that one out there just to show you that it could go right here and work. All right, so here's those 2 units right there, and they stack with that clearance right through here. Sorry, I'm having to try to adjust. Excuse my shaky camera if it is too shaky for you. But you've got 2, and you really could add a 3rd in your unit, your IKEA calyx unit. Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to turn this all the way over, but I want you to be able to see what this is like. Now with these, you can move it around. They might do that, but they're not going to fall out. With the embossing powders, they are very snug. So I'm going to move this over here. These are so snug, I think I can turn them completely sideways and not have them fall out. Look at that. They're nice. They fit perfectly in there. It's just a great way to stack them up if you only have that kind of vertical storage that you need versus having something like a drawer that you could put these in. Okay, now you can label the edges right here. I did this when I had refills in it. You can also paint over it. You could add no labels, or you could add any type of thing that you want on the end just so that you know what is going on here. Okay. So tell me in comments, which of these 3 are you thinking work best in your space? I'm going to have to know in the comments what you think about all of these fun ways to store embossing powders. All right, so let's look at what I finally put in this cabinet. I still have an empty drawer here on the top that I'm going to be using for probably some paste. I did put all of the Lunar paste and solar paste that I have. It fits perfectly in this drawer. Okay, so for the 3rd drawer, we kind of move down. I have all of these Shimmer relief paste in here. This is from Altenew, and I did swatch the tops of them too, just to see. Now for the embossing folder, or not, why do I keep saying embossing folder? Embossing powder. Here is the beautiful drawer. Look at all of that. Holds so many. And we've got them all nice and swatched. I created another video for all of you on the swatching process, and I will put that out at another time because this video was too long just showing you all the different ways to store. So now I have created all of my additives, all of my glitters, things like that that are also by Wow. I put them in a separate drawer so I know that these are not embossing powders. Even though they come in the same size, they're still not exactly embossing powders. You can use them with it, but it's not quite the same thing. So I just wanted you to see that I had that. Okay, so I'll close this one back. So once again, this is a storage cabinet from Stamp and Storage, and it's got these 5 drawers. It's got lots of options. I'll make sure to link it for you in the description. Make sure you use my links if you're doing that. Let me go over to the other side of the room and show you those other ways to store wonderful embossing powders. Okay, so the other way that we talked about were these grid caddies. Right now, I have these with my inks in them because I did decide that I liked the cabinet a little bit better, but these do a great job if all you've got is some storage for IKEA or you need some vertical storage. These grid caddies work great. I'll put the size in the description that is used and will hold the Wow embossing powders, and just to make sure, these do not hold other brands of embossing powder unless they make a bigger one on this site, which I'm not sure yet. I'll make sure and find out for you. And last but not least are these drawers. I've taken most of it out, but I want to show you what this looks like. So this is what I used to have my embossing powders in, and now I'm going to be using this for ink pads instead. So I had this whole drawer of embossing powders, but I've moved them to that other cabinet. This is the mini ink pad holder from Organize More. Highly recommend, just like I highly recommend a lot of the stamp and storage items. I'm going to zoom around the craft room for just a second and just be mindful that it may not be perfectly clean. But this is my craft room. Make sure that if you haven't done it yet, that you hit the like and subscribe. And if you enjoy this craft room, there is a full tour on my channel, and I will link it at the end so that you can see that if you are interested. So I'm going to get back to doing some projects. I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse at my craft room. Please know that this is on my channel. I have an entire detailed tour of this craft room. I just wanted to get some more in-depth things with the embossing powders today. So I will be putting out more videos on these smaller items and how to organize them. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and I'll see you soon. Bye.